All right. Looks like we are live. Wanted to.
Wait, hang on 1 second. Sorry, I have to paste. It's still loading.
Got it. So it's streaming live.
Yeah, it's
through
streaming
Zoom, but
live.
we gotta
And then
activate it on the site.
Yes. And
all right. Looks like we are live. Wanted to.
Wait, hang on 1 second. Sorry, I have to paste. It's still loading.
Got it.
Like Evan's mouth's not moving, but I hear him.
Right. It's because I'm actually a bot.
Okay, you should be good to go.
There we go. All right. Looks like we're live. Wanted to thank everyone for joining us for the summit before Rev.io's 6th annual summit. Just wanted to have a couple quick announcements. Certainly wanted to thank all of our clients and our prospects and partners. In particular, our sponsors for the event, Tax Connect, SkySwitch, AMOP, GSA, who's joining on my panel, AT&T Partner Exchange, Aver Analytics, Walters Kluwer, CloudAge, and Zanier, who helped make these events possible. Just a couple logistics announcements. So we will have each day, we're going to have an expo hall where you can come visit those sponsors through the main login page for our virtual expo. That is going to be going on from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock Eastern. So, please make sure you guys take time to log in, go visit those sponsors, as well as we're going to have a fun little event like we typically do in our live summits. Is each one of those sponsors for this event will have a trivia question and answer about Rev.io. So if you go around and talk to all of them about their service offerings, please make sure you ask them that question and jot down the note to that answer, because in our happy hour, tomorrow afternoon at the end of the event, we are going to be doing some giveaways. We'll be giving away some Yetis as well as an Amazon gift card. And you're going to need the answers to those questions to be able to be submitted into that drawing. So please make sure you take the time to go visit each of our sponsors and spend a few minutes with them over the next couple of days during those expo hours. But with that said, we'll go ahead and get kicked off into our sales and marketing in a post-lockdown world. We have panelists for multiple of our clients and partners, and I'm going to turn it over to them to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves. I'll kick it off first. I am Evan Rice. I'm the EVP of Sales and Marketing for Rev.io, and we'll just go left and kind of around the horn for me on my screen. Matt with GSA, would you mind introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, Matt LaHood, CEO for Global Strategic Accountants. We're based also in the Atlanta area, and we're the industry's widely regarded as a leader in the industry, devoted to telecommunications for tax and regulatory optimization and outsourcing. I've been in the industry now, I'm wrapping out more than 3 decades, having done many different things related to telecom billing. And our company is considered a full service back office compliance support company.
Awesome, thank you, Matt. William with Call Tower.
Sure. Well, Evan, first and foremost, thanks for having us on. It's always a pleasure to join the summits every year, and we look forward to them. So my name is William Rubio. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Call Tower. Call Tower has been around for about 18 plus years. We're known as a leader within the unified communications as a service space, primarily because we stick to core platforms around Microsoft and Cisco, and we'll dive into those here a little bit later overall. Been in the industry for about 25 plus years, so not 3 decades like Matt, but catching up to you on that overall, and looking forward to a great discussion. We have a great panel.
Thank you, William. And then last but certainly not least, Chris from Impulse. Give us a quick intro.
Hey, Evan. Chris with Impulse. I'm the VP of Client Solutions. Been at Impulse about 17 years now. We're a managed service provider, so we do internet connectivity, SD-WAN, and voice over IP. We run a BroadSoft Cisco platform and, kind of help manage all those elements and take a real high-touch approach to the clients we work with.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for those intros. We'll kind of go back around the way we started. So Chris, I'll kick off the conversation with you. Obviously, we're all living in a new version of reality. I hesitate to call it a new version of normal because it's not normal, right? And I think we've all seen the impacts that that's had in our organizations, in particular sales and partner organizations with, this having an impact on line of sight and certainty. It's certainly impacted the sales cycle and buying decisions. I'd like to kind of get us kicked off by having each of us talk a little bit about, how has the pandemic and the related actions around it, how really has that, impacted your sales organization and partner organizations? Chris, could we start with you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's been a huge, huge shift for us. We're headquartered out in Santa Barbara in California, and we're extremely high touch. So we like to go meet our customers, shake their hands, send out a team to do installs, throw a lot of events like you guys, typically in person, and all of that's changed. So it was a big shock to kind of figure out, well, what do you do when you can't go meet your customers anymore, right? So we had to shift to doing this, virtual versions of everything. Luckily, at the beginning, the business we're in and that William's in, voice over IP is great for when everyone has to go work from home, right? So we had a huge influx of people needing all the services that we've been telling them about for years and years. Like, hey, you can turn your iPad into your phone, and everyone was fine just working at their desk with their Polycom phone. And all of a sudden everything shifts, and now we've all got to learn how to work remote, right? So there was a huge spike for us where people, all this stuff we've been talking about, they all of a sudden had a need for it, right? So we were able to step up and kind of meet that need. But once that immediate need's over, everything starts to kind of settle down, and you've got to figure out, how do you take these things that we've done in person for so many years and figure out how to make them virtual. So that's really what we've been working on, is kind of replacing the tangible shaking hands and going out to lunch, and turn that into something virtual.
William, how are you guys doing that? How are you, certainly something we've talked a lot about here is, how do you replicate, in-person reality virtually and, obviously make some things tangible? What are some of the things that Call Tower's done with your sales organization to try to create that tangible connection in a virtual environment?
Well, there's two challenges there, Evan. I mean, first we'll talk a little bit about the employee side of it, and then we'll talk about the customer and the partner interaction overall. From an employee standpoint, we have employees in about 30 different states, so it wasn't a big shift for us, even though most of our employees, or I'd say about 60%, are in South Jordan, Utah, which is our headquarters. It was a shift for them to start working from home. So we had to prepare correctly for that, making sure that our employees had headsets, that they all had laptops, that they all had good internet connections. So we kind of saw the writing on the wall, and we did start with that back, I would say, at the beginning of March. So when the pandemic really kind of struck, that everything started to, all hell broke loose, right? Lack of a better expression. We were a little bit prepared for that from a support standpoint. And then it's the other side of it, is what do you do with your customers and our partners? I mean, about 80% of our business comes from an indirect sales channel, which is high touch, which means we're going out there, we're shaking our partners' hands, and then working with their customers to attract those organizations to us. We've been on the good side of that, meaning because of the fact that we do work with Microsoft. Everybody knows about the Teams initiative here lately over the past couple of years that Microsoft has done. Really a big explosion for us overall. And it was really a matter of making sure that we could support it, making sure that we could educate our partners and our new customers as we onboard them, and still do it in a timely manner, considering now that we're all remote and having to deal with a lot of things, not just in our daily job, but also from home. As you hear my fax phone ringing in the background right now, because people call different phone numbers now, right? So similar thing overall, right? Dealing with kids at home, if you happen to have kids. So there's a lot of different things that you have to deal with overall, but we've been lucky to stay ahead of it overall. It's been actually, we had a great second quarter. Q3 is looking just as good right now for us overall, and it's really just educating customers and potential customers on how they could effectively do this from a remote workforce.
So it certainly sounds like you're taking the experiences that you have with your internal team and using those to educate clients. That sounds similar to what Chris talked about in terms of the influx of business, and really realizing the messaging that you've had leading up to this point to say, hey, use these tools that we've been talking about for a long time. Matt, I know you guys are a little bit different in the fact that there's employees that have to physically put their hands on things inside of your business. So Could you talk about, the impact that this has had in particular when you have to be in an office, right? You guys haven't been able to be completely remote, right? So could you talk a little bit about your experience?
We had the benefit, one of our executives started raising the alarm back in January that there was a pandemic on the way. They had been an international traveler and they were attuned to what was going on in Asia. So our leadership team got together early February and into March, where we put all of our plans together for remote should we have a shutdown. We assigned myself, I was assigned as the COVID czar to figure out what resources we needed, who needed to stay in the office to keep things going, and what we needed to do in terms of messaging to our customers. And we didn't just stop at sending out that, typical message, hey, in light of COVID, this is what we're doing. We actually put together a task force that communicated to our customers exactly what we were doing, even for some of our customers, like on a weekly basis. And we communicated out not just what we were doing, but then we started to turn it around because we were ahead of the game and actually asking customers what their problems were. Being in the outsourcing, the people that we're interacting with are representing very lean departments. And so we started becoming more of a problem solver, just trying to work through the noise of, our states requiring you to pay tax or not. We had some companies here that they didn't have to pay any taxes during the shutdown. And so there was a lot of rumor that we had to stamp down. But then once we started working on their problems, which included in some cases more outsourced support, we started looking at what we could do to advance our company, and we called it Finding the Stream. And we sat down with our business development team and leadership team, and we started to ask, what are the customers talking about? And quite frankly, it was mergers and acquisitions. And what's surprising is that really sped up during this time. So we put it together a whole message about our company's ability to support due diligence, and it's really been great. So finding that stream and being problem solvers and being highly available to customers sounds like what William was talking about and Chris in terms of touch points, just keeping on your toes and leaning forward.
Yes, I think the availability, certainly seeing the influx and the need to communicate with customers in particular as a time of uncertainty happens, and as this transition was happening, kind of that initial, I think what they talk about, kind of that initial panic phase, right? But as things have settled down, through that kind of initial burst, and now again, we've started to see that there's definitely a shift in behavior. Again, the fact that may not be normal, but it is reality currently. How have you adjusted some of your messaging, William? Matt mentioned changing their messaging and reaching out to the customers in a different way. William, what's some of the change in the messaging in terms of your specific outreach to customers and prospects?
We've worked with a couple of different research organizations. One of the ones we team up with is Nemeritz, which is a pretty good organization that does provide some good information as far as what organizations are doing. And there's a couple of stats that always kind of stick out to me. I mean, you're seeing now that organizations have to adapt to work from home. Right? I mean, there's no if or but about it. And what it's going to do is it's really going to help reduce your turnover, right? It's going to help on a cost standpoint from having a larger office that you need. And what we've been really driving with our customers is that is that new reality, Evan, just like you were mentioning, right? So you have to adapt to it. If not, you're going to lose employees because you got to have that flexibility. They are more productive at home. I mean, I can tell you myself, I'm not traveling right now and, work 12 hours a day, right? And you're like, what am I doing still at 7:00 at night in front of the computer? I need to get up and see the family. So it does change that reality a little bit for you. And now it's really getting the messaging to those organizations that say, this is it. This is what's going to happen. You have to adapt to what that new reality is, because if not, you're going to lose good talent. Your competitors are going to pick it up. But more importantly, or as important, is you want to make sure that you have the right tools so that your employees can be effective. And that's really a big messaging part that we're trying to get across. I mean, we're doing newsletters more often than what we did before. We're doing CRO letters, CEO letters to our customers and to our partners. And the more you communicate, there's always something that they pick up from that, whether they read the 2 or 3 paragraphs or not. Links to different things as far as what are the hotbeds, what's real bad, what's the traveling, everything like that you can help out with. It just seems to help that you're being informative and being proactive instead of them coming to you.
So I'm hearing, overly communicate, be prescriptive, be consultative, really help kind of paint the picture of here's what business is going to be like, and here's what you need to do to be successful. Chris, are you guys doing something similar, or how are you maintaining that connection, and how have you adjusted your messaging to your customers and partners?
It's interesting, kind of mention the phases of the pandemic, right? So at the beginning, there was this feeling for the sales team that, is it even appropriate to reach out to people in the first month or two, right? Because everybody was going through such chaos and fear and just didn't know what was going on. So while I think the account management team working with the current customers, it was good for them because there's a lot of change and they need to help the current customers, right? So it's very easy to reach out during chaos to say, hey, I'm here to help. I know you, we have a relationship. How can I help? But for the people trying to do the outbound sales, that was really tough at the beginning because they were looking at us going, is it even appropriate to cold call right now? Does anyone want to hear from a salesperson at this time? So that was a little tough for us, just kind of figuring out when is it okay to reach out to people for the sales message, not so much the, we're here to help you. We already have a relationship message. But that's definitely changed. As you've said, it's kind of you hate to say it, but it's the new reality for now. And everyone kind of gets that we're in here for the long haul right now, and you can go back to sales, and it's completely appropriate. So that took a little while to kind of get to that mode. Reaching out and just kind of calling on all of our people that we talked to, 6 months ago, a year ago. The good news is, in the technology industry, change and chaos can actually be something you need to push them forward on something that they'd been talking to you a year ago, and they've just got the status quo, right? So, but when there's change like this, like William said, you got to help them work from home now. You've got to drastically change their bandwidth needs. They might actually need more bandwidth at a data center because everyone's accessing that remotely when they were all in the office before. So trying to really educate our sales team to kind of focus on that change that everyone's going through allows them to kind of have that confidence to say, look, I know things have changed. I'm sure the things we're talking about now, or 6 months ago, might be important to you now where they didn't used to be. So that's kind of been something we're trying to focus on.
Really just bringing in, where are we today? Using that as a compelling reason that, you have to adapt to this. So making your messaging around, how you're helping them adapt to the current scenario, and, how you're going to help them move forward. Matt,
and another thing is, I was going to say, a lot of them actually have time to work on projects too. So you've got a lot of IT guys that they're not in the office all the time right now. So they actually have that extra time to sit back and work on a project, where the excuse was always, I don't have time to focus on that right now. Now's a great time to take down their office for, a couple hours to do a big upgrade or something, because no one's there. So that's another thing that kind of gave the sales team the confidence to say, hey, that's kind of a good thing to go to them with. Say, hey, when better than now to kind of work on these projects that, we've been talking about for a while.
Always better to renovate your house when you're not living in it.
Exactly.
Right? Matt, you had brought up this subject of, messaging. The other thing that we're seeing, certainly as we adapt our messaging, and that's critical to this, how we talk about initiatives and why now is always something important. Really, what are some of the things that GSA is doing with your prospects and your customers around it is a very easy and a common objection that we've heard, and just the mindset of, well, the reason why not now is because I'm just not exactly certain about where we're going to be. I don't exactly know what the future is going to hold. I'm just not sure. There's definitely just an inaction bias when scenarios like this come up. How are you either tailoring messaging, or what are things that you're doing and working with your prospects and clients that are helping them continue to move forward?
Yeah, well, Evan, we hit inaction bias head on. Luckily, we use CRM tools that allow us to track the gestation of sales and how long they're taking. Our sales team went back to old opportunities with new potential clients. We went back to them with a message that now's the time to lean forward. As I mentioned in my first response, leaning forward was a philosophy that we took wholeheartedly. Luckily, we were somewhat prepared to get all of our work done to go back and focus on new customer growth. And they were absolutely open. I think Chris mentioned that. there was a lot of interest for companies that wanted to know how to get started. And so we were a calming voice of the back office is taken care of if you'll just move forward with sales. And quite frankly, managed service providers and VoIP providers that are niche players were getting a lot of calls, as Chris also mentioned. And so there was a lot of opportunity that they could see. They just finally saw the reason to move forward many times. Of course, we didn't convert everybody, right? But that message of lean forward, start now, everything will work out, and you'll get a head start from your competition. And so, long held plans for existing customers, we went back and found that in many cases, the people that were holding us back on providing additional service, they weren't there. When we finally asked the questions, Evan, their companies had been disrupted with certain staff that were critical to functioning in some regulatory or tax compliance issue, and they just weren't there. And so we had a lot of openness to our expanded message of outsourcing is business continuity. And so I just want to impress upon anybody in the audience that if you're holding back, but you have the time and you're only holding back because you decide this may not be the time, I've always been told when everybody's leaning back, you lean forward.
I think that's a common theme I've heard in my career too, that, if you can work when others aren't working, you're getting ahead, right?
Right.
William, obviously different types of services, but, we've heard from both of you that there was this influx. Matt has mentioned from his perspective that he's seen the service providers that he's worked with where they were getting more of that interest. What are some of the things that you've seen in terms of, how do you keep opportunities moving forward? And really, to Matt's point, how are we being that voice to help motivate? And really, I feel like that's, all of our responsibility, back to our country and to the economy, is to be positive voices around the vision for the future and to get people to move, because ultimately, paralysis is what kills us. So what are some of the things that you're doing with, your teams and your prospects and your partners to really get through that inaction bias and keep things moving forward?
Well, the first thing we did is when we realized that this was obviously going to go into a big panic mode, we went out and we started to put out press releases and started to really get out to our partners that everybody that now all of a sudden was going from working from a work environment at an office to go home, we were giving them free conferencing. So we said, hey guys, we're not going to sign you guys up on a contract. There's no bill that's going to go out. Just call us up. You give us your company name. You give us the amount of users, their email addresses. We'll put you in an account and we're going to give you 90 to 120 days for free. And then we're going to come back and we're going to worry about it. So we tried to take the uncertainty part out of it. And we did that with our, both with Cisco, and we also did that with Microsoft Teams, just on the conferencing side. Then a couple of weeks later, now you had the employee side of it, like Chris mentioned earlier with the sales folks, that they were like, great, what do I do with my funnel? I have customers that are worried that they don't want to make any decisions. And we said, okay, let's peel back that onion. And what are the real main issues that they have? One is they don't want to increase expenses because they don't know what's going to happen in the near future. Okay. Two is we know that long term, they don't want to be into something that's going to be a commitment because they don't know what's going to go on. And they didn't know what August or September or even July was going to look like. So how do you combat those three things? First thing we did is we said, any customers that do want to sign up for us for UCAS, so now more than conferencing, but for the whole thing, we're going to go ahead and we're going to treat you as a full implemented customer. And we're going to give you the first 90 days from activation of free services. You don't have to pay anything for the services that we're giving you. Second is we're going to give you 90 days to cancel. So if at any point in time you want to cancel during those 90 days, you could cancel. And then third is we said, we're going to give you 6 months from activation that you could add or remove users, pretty much similar to a business downturn. So you go from 2,000 users to 100, or you could go to 5,000. We'll give you that flexibility. And what that did is it really pushed forward, going back to what Matt and Chris were saying earlier, a lot of customers that were kind of on the fence to make a decision, saying, I got to pull the plug, but now I'm working with a partner that's giving me some flexibility that if this thing really blows up on me, I don't have that expense. It was a burden for us, and we realized that obviously as well. We went back to Microsoft, we went back to Cisco, we went back to Metaswitch, our CT Cloud Voice solution, and worked with our underlying partners as well to say, hey, let's work in conjunction with this. Let's first be a good neighbor, and then we'll worry about revenue, right? I know it's kind of hard for people to say in business, but it was really about that at first for the first few months. And then as things started to calm down, and what happened is, from our standpoint, at least from what we're seeing, is it really pushed forward a lot of those opportunities. Most customers did pull the trigger on it, and it even increased our funnels because we also went out to our partners and said, hey, we know that you're feeling the pain the same way, so we're going to give you those free services too as our customers, and just take them and use them, and let's go out there and win business together. So really made a big difference across the board, and we were lucky to get in the forefront of it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think the empathy with their situation and really kind of putting yourself in their shoes around,
Yep.
hey, would I want to make big commitments? But we know we know you need these services. So how do we help really remove those barriers that we believe you're thinking about so that you can take advantage of this and then ultimately win together? Chris, did you guys see something similar, or any programs that you implemented that you felt like helped your prospects move forward?
I like William's ideas. Those were great. So the no contract thing, that's a good one. I'm taking some notes because you're absolutely right. No one knows. Can I go get a big new fiber circuit to my office? Am I going to have an office in 3 more months? Is everyone going to work from home? It's the unknown's tough. What I think we did, to try and replicate that high touch thing again is, for like account reviews, we would normally take people out to a nice lunch. So what we came up with was, let's send them a Grubhub certificate and schedule, a video meeting, but allow them to get lunch on us, so make it a little bit more fun and a little more engaging so they could appreciate that. Same with kind of, if we're doing a session like this, our top customers, we usually like to get them together a couple times a year. So of course we had to do that virtually, and we decided to send them all whiskey tastings so that they had something to do when we were, virtually getting together. So trying to come up with those creative ways to just make a video meeting a little bit more interesting, and kind of tip the scales to, okay, Impulse is going that extra mile to really, work on that relationship when we're stuck sitting in our offices. I'm working from my 4-year-old daughter's bedroom right now for 4 months. So, you got to do something to make things a little more interesting. Also, as a company, just to keep the employees engaged, we've always done a daily huddle, 9 o'clock every day for 15 minutes. And it was nice that we already had that in our culture to do that every day. So when we shifted virtual, it was great that everyone knew I still got a 9 o'clock, got to call in and got to do that morning huddle and, celebrate wins. We have a wheel that we spin and everyone can celebrate a win that we get. And, everyone might win $5 or a lunch certificate. So we're trying to keep that fun, because these video meetings all day long can get a little monotonous, so what can you do to either for your employees to keep them motivated and more importantly, your customers. So I've been focusing on that stuff.
Well, I think that's a great point, is that the more you can replicate the original reality and your normal cadence and your normal routine that you've had in your in-person business with your team, it gives them the confidence to relay that to their clients and prospects that, hey, we're moving forward internally, right? I think that's certainly something that we've tried to do here, is to maintain our meeting schedules, maintain the interactions, the happy hours, dinners, however you can replicate that virtually so that you do continue to operate as you did. And that gives you the confidence to be able to tell other companies that they can do the same, right? That it starts with your house first, and then, relay that out to the community. Obviously, we've talked about the prospects and clients. The channel and partners is another area where keeping them engaged, and how have we created that motivation and that same sentiment. Matt, I'll start with you. I know you guys are very channel focused. Could you talk about some of the things that you've done with your partners to keep them engaged?
Yeah, and this was also part and parcel with what can we do during the pandemic shutdown to help everybody through it, right? And we don't use the term channel, we use trade partners, because we see our trade partners as true partners. And our sales team, which I'm included, we went out and did a lot of touch points with our trade partners and said, what else can we do to help you be more successful? And we would get some, run-of-the-mill things, help this customer reduce their taxes. And it all came back, down to customers want relief. They may be doing fine financially, but everybody was afraid that their money was going to dry up. So we did all that we could with our trade partners, just like I believe William or Chris said that William gave 3 months free. We went back to our trade partners and essentially offered them the chance to offer to their customers things like regulatory optimization, because while this all hit, we had another pandemic, and that was USF fees went up over 26%. And when people saw that, plus there were also TRS and other federal recovery fees went up dramatically, bad timing. But what happened was everybody got shocked that their bills went up substantially in the area of taxes. So we were prepared with a full team in our tax lab to give the services out to help them, A, understand why this was happening, but B, understand how to mitigate it through more tax optimization. So we essentially turned one of our billable services into a value add for our trade partners, and it's worked out great. It helped people feel more comfortable to purchase billing platform Rev.io. It helped other customers to advance their automation and back office expense management and things like that. So that's a big thing. We went out and we offered how to reduce tax impact.
What I heard there primarily is a lot of enablement with the partners, giving partners new tools in their toolbox to engage their clients. Yeah. William, I know you guys are also very in the traditional channel, right? What are some of the programs? You talked about the things that you did with the customers. Now, obviously, that impacts your partners. Did you do anything specifically with your partners to drive engagement with them?
Yeah, we did. The first thing is we did offer them pretty much the free UCAS, just like we did for our customers, just to really get them out of the gate. And then right at the beginning of Q3, we said, okay, we seem like we've helped our customers. What can we do to really also entice our partners? And we started to come out with more aggressive promotions for them so that they could help put more food on their table, right? Because they need to go ahead and do that and really do it at an accelerated pace. We came out with a sales streak type of option, which basically gave them faster money up front, depending on how many orders they signed up. So that was giving them cash right away, in addition to go ahead and giving them more spiff on some of the core products that they were seeing out there that they were trying to promote overall, to really just drive that, hey, we're here in this together. We understand that you guys need help too as well. And it's just really worked out well, both from the customer standpoint first, and then also from the partner standpoint.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. Chris, can you close us out on that? I know you guys are, again, very high touch, more referral and networking based, but I do know you also have partners as well. Anything different that you guys have done to keep engagement there and alignment with your partners?
Yeah, we took the time to kind of talk to our partners, and like you said, we're not huge in that space, but we certainly have a good group of partners. And one of the feedbacks was we want more visibility into how much we're getting paid from Impulse and make sure we're getting paid on time, because that's important to us. So I'll give you guys a plug. We're a newer Rev.io customer, year or so that we've been on your platform, and we finally took the time to onboard to your agent portal, where we could actually, use your system instead of our own homegrown system to get all of our partners paid and give them a portal to check what they were getting paid, which they love, right? So they went from kind of not exactly knowing how much they were going to get to being able to log in and check that out. So, focusing on those internal tools. We also did a lot with processes inside of Rev.io, just so when new orders came in, they were, using the processes that you guys offer. So we took a lot of time to just work on those internal systems so that, when things hopefully do go back to normal, we're in a much better position to not have to, use older systems and actually be ready on the newer stuff.
So kind of taking your own advice, right?
Hey,
good time to implement some upgrades, and
exactly.
not necessarily in your office. So we've talked a good amount about the prospect side, current clients, our partners. Chris, I want to start with you on this, because I do know you guys have a good sized internal sales team. Our internal full-time salespeople, right? Certainly, sales motivation and incentive and keeping teams aligned is always challenging, right? And something we always have to work on in normal situations. And I think that gets escalated in a situation like this, in particular in a fully remote environment that many of us are in. what are some of the things you've done with your internal salespeople to really try to keep them motivated and to keep them aligned?
Yeah, like you mentioned, most of our team was in the office, so it was a big shift for them to all of a sudden be remote and not seeing each other all the time, and shifting. How do you keep them motivated? Even just the water cooler talk that happens around the office when you're used to that, where you bump in and share ideas and all of that. So it has been really tough to lose that. Of course, we do the Zoom happy hours that everyone does, and we've done stuff like Pictionary, scavenger hunts, different things like that, just to keep them talking and engaged. But it's probably been the most challenging part, is just losing, especially because we were all in one office. We had some remote employees, but we were pretty used to working in a really nice large office. So it's been a challenge to keep them motivated and excited, right? They want to be excited about things. Luckily, like I said, the shift to everyone working remote, and of course we provide tools to help work remote. They were excited that, all these tools we've been pitching for years, it's one of the most important things that companies need right now. So there, you have to kind of focus on that excitement of, look, more than ever, you're kind of the most important topic that an IT director is thinking about right now. So that has created a little excitement. But then, like I said, just trying to replicate the team building exercises and the fun when you can't go out and actually meet for drinks in real life anymore.
Yeah, so creating connection, but I also think you bring up a great point. I mean, one of the number one motivators in particular for our, younger salespeople is, what's my purpose? What kind of impact do I have? How do I do something meaningful? And to be able to drink your own champagne and be able to see, like, this is helping me and it's facilitating me being able to continue to do my job, makes you feel a lot more connected to what you're doing for your customers, right? So I think that is a point that all of us can take. The fact that now really shines a bright light on how important what our industry does is for all the business across this country, big or small. William, how about you? Have you seen some of those similar impacts, or anything different you're doing with your internal team?
Well, we started to do happy hours on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and we started to ring the cowbell type of thing for COVID-19 to go away, just to keep it interesting. And it started out first just kind of informative for the first half an hour, 45 minutes, and then we started to play different games and different trivia. But one of the things that it also drove us, we realized that we had to do some more training. We were doing training probably about twice a month, but we started doing that once a week, and it was really about communication. And I know that it's really forced our employees, now that everyone's pretty much remote, to actually just really drive more into the individual, right? You get in a call and it's just like, hi, how you doing? How's the weather? Where do you live from? I mean, now you're getting into how many kids you have and what grades your kids are in and what their names, and you hear them or you see them running in the background, right? Type of thing, because everything changes. So it's forcing people, especially even a lot of introverts, right, that are a little bit more reserved in that sense, to really just come out of their shell and really talk. And I think it's really helped bring people together, that you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know you were a Jeep lover and I'm a Jeep lover, and so forth. So I think that that's really been a big difference. And I've seen the company actually grow stronger and closer, even though we're all more remote, because I think it's forced people to do that. And it's been really a good thing for us.
I mean, I think you bring up a great point in the fact that we've all talked about how we've moved work into people's homes due to the fact that we had to all go home. But now what a side effect of that is bringing people's homes into our work, right? And creating more intimacy and closer connections. And I think it's also how you respond to that, right? I think in the beginning, we saw in our company that people were certainly very nervous about having their kid walk into their room, or having a pet jump up on the keyboard and hey, this is just what it is, right? So I think how you respond to that and how you react to it, and certainly all of us need to be flexible and be very accommodating there. It creates that sense of trust. Matt, I want to end this question on you, because you brought up when we talked leading up to this that you guys took a very interesting stance, and I thought it was effective, really around mission, right? You guys created a mission around this and had a rallying cry. Could you talk a little bit about that, how you responded with your internal team?
Yeah, I think in our I called it a war. I'd rather call it a challenge, and you called it a challenge. Thank you. I think from our company standpoint, we don't see this as a new normal. We don't see this as anything other than a challenge. Don't know how long it's going to take, but I give people the impression we're in the second inning. And what we did around our company, since we had to bring everybody back in, by and large, to the office, about 20% of our people are no longer here full time. 80% are. We hired a concierge doctor for our entire company. We did company-wide testing and offered it to their families to both get tested to see if they had any COVID in their bloodstream, or did they have the antibodies. Surprisingly, we had about 15% of our company back in May that had the antibodies. And then what we did was we started paying bonuses, and we continue to pay them out for the company maintaining a 100% health record. And so instead of looking at our competitors as enemies and challenges that way, we actually turned our attention towards health being our tool against the challenge of, the game to beat the COVID, the virus. And so far, I knock on wood, not one of our employees, not one of their family members that live with them has ever contracted COVID. And consequently, our team's gotten a lot of bonuses. And so they feel very proud about having kept themselves safe, their homes safe, and the people around them. And it's been, just like the other panelists, this has really brought us closer together. And we also have toolbox talks on, going over the stats for the state of Georgia. Where is the virus attacking most, and watching out for that. And so we give updates. It's a challenge. We're in the second inning, and we're going to win this game. So.
I love it. I mean, all in all, I think I've heard a lot of themes of communication, being a trusted advisor and consulting, and really having an opinion and a stance, allowing our employees to see the impact of what they're doing, giving partners and customers the tools to feel more confident and to feel that you're there to support them. And ultimately, it's really about that connection that we're creating. Being together when we have to be apart is something that is critical to success, right? And finding different and creative ways to replicate that. And we, heard some of those examples, right? From spinning a wheel virtually to, hey, send me the whiskey tasting kit whenever you want. The gift cards and virtual lunches. How do we again continue to replicate the experiences that are also dear to us, out in the market and in the field, over these mediums like conferencing and voice communication. I really appreciate all of you taking the time and giving us your perspectives. I know we are coming up on time, but did want to see if there were any questions from our audience. There is a chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. If you can type in any questions that you have, we can take a couple minutes to address any of the audience questions, and then we'll wrap for our break. Delaney, do we have any questions from the audience? If not, we'll go ahead and wrap up. All right, well, again, Matt with GSA, William with Call Tower, Chris with Impulse. I want to thank you guys very much again for participating. I really enjoyed the conversation. I know the audience got a lot out of it as well, and we'll be looking forward to the next panel here shortly.
Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
You guys.